Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. We're here in Brookshire County at our Roswell cargo hub, and in this video we're going to focus on getting more resources in and out of this area, and maybe even at the end of this episode, if we have time, we will place some airports on the map and get those up and running. And so really what I want to see start happening here at the cargo hub is a lot more trucks and trains coming in here, a lot more resources. We do have tools, food, and machines coming into here. However, we do still have this construction materials plant over here that we can connect up. And then I don't believe we have anything really connected to Lincoln yet. So I think we're finally going to bring those construction materials over here to the cargo hub, and then we're going to focus on making sure all three cities that we're currently connected to here are getting all of the resources they can out of this area. And so first things first, figuring out how we're going to get construction materials out of this area over to our cargo hub. And I think realistically there's only two ways we can feasibly go about doing this. The first way is we come out this end and then we turn around and sort of follow the edge of the map here until eventually we'll have to cross over this road and then connect up here, which might get a little complicated given everything going on in this area. Or the other way, which I think is a little bit more likely that we're going to do, is coming out this way. Somewhere along this line we'll branch off, and then we will bridge over this river. And then, although I'm not sure where we're going to bridge over, whenever we do get there, we will then come over, follow sort of the base of this mountain, and then we can come into the train station here. Now, neither of those choices really seem like a standout winner to me, as both of them have their drawbacks. If we go over the river, we end up with sort of an awkward and somewhat unrealistically long bridge across here. However, if we come down along the edge of the map here, we run into some pretty extreme terrain that I'm not entirely sure how we would get around it. And so after thinking about it a little bit longer, I think our best case, even though it still isn't perfect, is to come over this way and then figure out how we're going to cross this river, because eventually we will need to deliver resources to Tacoma, and if we have this line that comes pretty much 80% of the way from the cargo hub to Tacoma, we can reuse those tracks in order to get into the city. And then the last thought I have, I am aware that there's a chance we could just split here and then connect up to these tracks and follow along our passenger line. But I just think that ends up taking us too much of a roundabout way to get to the cargo hub, that line might not be as profitable, and it'll really make a mess out of things along the coast here in Tacoma, even though it looks like we're already getting a bit of a mess here with this road. And so let's come over to the cargo hub end of this before we sort of make up our mind on what we want to do over near Tacoma. And I think we'll start by dragging out these tracks. We'll give ourselves a little bit of extra space, and then we can start to curve this around, and I think we want to come around and then follow the base of this mountain until we get into this area here. Alright, and now after quite a long mess of placing down tracks, we did end up going all the way out here and then following our passenger tracks around. I really hope this works out because we did put a lot of time into making this look nice, where we go underground, although unfortunately it doesn't look like it's going to be cooperating too well. Hopefully that's not something we have to continue dealing with, but it does seem like the game has some issues when we try to build tunnels underneath sort of where the water level is, but I think for the most part this came out pretty okay. I think this area could be cleaned up a bit more, but I want to make sure it's profitable before we really get into making this look nice, because this would all be pointless if, of course, the train we end up running on here never makes us any money. So that's something we'll have to work on and figure out later. We might also end up needing to move this cargo station a little bit farther outside of the city due to this tunnel underneath the water. It's just unrealistic to try to get a train in here, especially one coming from the cargo hub. So we might end up having to place it somewhere out here farther in the future, but for now I think we're okay, and we can start to deliver some of these construction materials towards the cargo hub. Alright, so now let's think about the train that we're going to need and just get an idea of the demand that we're eventually going to be putting out. So Lincoln here, with 64 demand, Roswell with 107, and then all the way over here in Pittsburgh, this one's actually the lowest demand resource, and Pittsburgh only needs 52. So really all the cities we're going to be providing to actually don't need that many construction materials, but it's still enough to have maybe one good sized train going back and forth. So let's just come in here and see what we can build. Alright, so the engine we're going to go with on this train is this New Haven R3 Mountain engine, and then behind it we have 15 of these super heavy flat cars. Now, I opted for these over the regular flat car because this one has a slightly higher top speed, slightly higher capacity. However, the weight and the running cost is a bit more. I opted to go for top speed just because we're going in such a long roundabout route that I think being able to keep up a somewhat higher top speed for that distance will help balance us out in the long run. The only worry is that this running cost isn't enough. The increase in this running cost is too much to sort of balance it out. So we'll try with this. I think this capacity is okay to try out at first, and then this will go from here in Tacoma all the way over to this stop over here. And then the last thing we need to do quick on this line is place down a couple of signals, and we might actually have to wait for this train to come through before we start placing these signals down, but we'll get these signals down, and then that should be it for this line. We'll move on, and then, or I guess we'll set up our construction materials lines on to our other cities, and then hopefully by then we'll be able to start to see this train carrying some materials. Alright, so now that we're back here at the cargo hub, we can start to sort out our demand in all of our cities. So let's start here in Roswell, as this will be the easiest one to set up. And it looks like right here in the heart of the city, we can place down a stop. I think we'll just get that right here. Then we'll need to adjust these boats to bring in some construction materials as well. So now construction materials should start to come in whenever they're available. And then from here, we'll just have to get a few trucks to take them into the city. And so we only need a rate of, I believe it was 67. So we can just come in here, we'll find our stop, and then we can check this line. And yeah, this rate is a little too high for what we need, so we can sell one or two of these and still function just fine. Or actually, Roswell needs 107. I believe it was Lincoln that only needed 65, so actually we'll bring this back and we'll get 2 more trucks. That'll put us just over 100. And that is all for Roswell. And then the next thing I want to look at is connecting resources up to Lincoln. And right now Lincoln is only getting tools. It could actually use with a lot more tools, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Next, I believe the resources we have available at the cargo hub, we have food, goods, construction materials, and machines all available. I think we're only going to focus on construction materials for now. I don't want to completely explode this city just yet, as adding all those resources will cause it to grow a lot. I want to prep Lincoln for all that expansion, but we will get the construction materials demand out here. And it looks like that can all get served just by coming in and dropping off somewhere here. So we'll do that, and hopefully this will be keeping some of these trucks off of our main road. I believe the city is expanding pretty straight, so we should be able to just extend this street. We'll just grab this, and it might be a little tricky as the road doesn't really seem to want to do this. And so now we got this road connected. Hopefully then, when we set up this line, these trucks will prioritize taking this road and then turning down one of these streets to get here, so that we're not cluttering our main road in Lincoln. And so with that, we'll just have to come to this road depot, and we'll get a couple of more trucks. We'll continue going with these Ford trucks with side stakes to deliver the construction materials. And we'll start out with 15 of them, since it is a decent distance. I'll just connect up to some of these and bring that over to our truck stop. And if we look here, it looks like it did route correctly, so that's good to see. That's exactly what we wanted. And now we can continue, or I guess first we should make sure the rate is correct. So 57, I believe that's close to the number that we need. Lincoln is asking for 60, so maybe we just get one or two more here. And then before we worry about Pittsburgh, I think I want to upgrade these roads, as dirt roads have sort of been phased out. So let's see if there's any other roads that would look better in this area to use. And so I think this is the street that we're going to go with. It's more or less just, I guess it ends up being more of an invisible road, since it matches the asphalt texture. But I do like that it has the street lights around it, so we'll plop this down everywhere where there's a dirt road. And unfortunately, it looks like we're running into this issue with this road depot, so we're gonna have to delete that, and hopefully we can just place that back down without much issue. We'll just have to get this placed right back here, and then we should be able to get back to upgrading things. Now, unfortunately, it does look like this didn't really do what we wanted it to, and that doesn't look too bad. So we can continue now on this side. Alright, so now that we have all the small roads upgraded, we now have our large road that comes through here. And for this street, I think we're just going to use this road here. I don't think there's any need for sidewalks, so we'll just use this. And then from this point on, we can get a much faster road. So we'll come out and we'll find a road that has a high enough speed limit. I think we can go with this one. And unfortunately, it doesn't really connect well, but from a distance, it looks fine. And we'll just upgrade this road to this new 4-lane road, pretty much all the way until we reach Lincoln. So all of this will become paved all the way to here, and then I think the city will eventually upgrade this street automatically. We won't worry about this, or I guess we can just do it ourselves. And so now with that upgraded, I believe that's everything for our roads. So this looks much nicer now as we come in towards our cargo hub. Everything's starting to look pretty good, clean, and connected. And then the last thing I think we're going to do is switch the roads on all of these truck stations to just a simple invisible road, since the road we already have pretty much just matches with this. I think maybe eventually we might come in and draw lines so that you can at least sort of see where the road is supposed to go. But for now, we'll just stick with these invisible roads, and we can then move on from this. Alright, so now the last line that we need to fix around here is our line heading out to Pittsburgh. And so first, let's set up a construction materials line in Pittsburgh. And so we can see here Pittsburgh is receiving 4 out of its 6 resources. I think there's a lot of optimization that needs to be done here at some point, especially concerning this area. It looks like our road here did help. However, there's still a fair amount of traffic taking this bridge and coming through this area. And then I think we just also need a new truck station in general here. And so I think we'll keep what we have. We will pause and replace this road. And so we'll keep this truck station here. I think we'll just place a new one pretty much right across the street here in this area. Alright, and so then we can just place this down. I think this looks just fine how it is. We'll just paint in a little area around here, just like so. And then what we can do is pretty much just start to shift some of these lines over to here. So for instance, this tool line, I think we'll move, since this one is taking a lot of resources. And so instead of being here, we'll add a station, put you through here. I think we do need to upgrade the trucks on this, as we had a ton of trucks waiting. First of all, we'll just switch these up to the Ford trucks, since they are considerably smaller. And then we'll get 8 of those trucks coming in here. That should be enough to cover that demand, which means we can now start to space out some of these lines a bit more, although none of them are really overloading anything, so I think we're okay to just leave this for now. So then, as for our construction materials, let's find out where those are needed. And it looks like they are needed right here. Now, one thing we're going to do is we're going to first place this just like that. And then I think what we're going to do is we're going to have the trucks come up this road and then across this bridge instead. So then they'll come loop around, drop off here, and then come back and go around, just so we're not unnecessarily overloading this area. So that means we will have to place down some waypoints. So that should work just fine. And then we'll just have to grab a few trucks to deliver those. And then those will go from this stop up to here. And actually, we need to tell it to come to this waypoint. And then on the way back, come through and use this waypoint. And then one other thing I think we're going to do here to help with some of this traffic is we're going to add a few more waypoints onto this road. And then we're going to have this tools line, instead of coming on this road to come in here, we're just going to have it come in through this road, loop around, and then come in this way. So now that should help out, since it looks like this is getting a little bit overloaded. So allowing or moving some of the trucks off of this road should help out spreading everything out a little bit more. Alright, so now all that's left is to upgrade our train from Pittsburgh to the cargo hub in order to first be able to bring enough of the resources into the cargo hub, and then also be able to take construction materials back to Pittsburgh. And so we can take a look at our current train that's running. and this is making us a ton of money as it's pretty much running full both directions. And so I don't want to mess this up too much, but I think we're pretty much going to have to redesign the whole train. We're going to have to get a much more powerful engine. It'll probably be a little bit longer than it currently is, since we'll probably want to keep the same amount of boxcars, just tack on some flat cars onto the end. And so let's first just replace these. Alright, so the engine that we're running is this C&O J2A engine, and behind it we just have a mess of boxcars and this super heavy flat cars. I think this will be enough for our flat cars, so we will replace these. That might take a little bit since it's a lot. And then, again, I think we want to duplicate this and get a third train running on this line. And then, of course, we'll want to edit this so that, first of all, it's not loading any of these basic resources. But we do want to load construction materials, or I guess this is coming from Pittsburgh, so we want to unload construction materials. All this stuff can get unchecked as well. This is at the cargo hub. We will want it to unload the machines and food that it should have, and then load construction materials. So this sounds about right. We'll just have to let this go, and hopefully in a little bit we'll see that it's going fine. But we can see here we have a slightly higher top speed now at 60 miles an hour. This train is able to reach that no problem, and we can see it passing another one of our trains. Now it's going to be a while before we see any of the construction materials make it here. But let's just see if we're actually generating that demand now. And it looks like we are starting to get some construction materials. It looks like our train actually has a load of them already. So we can find it. And it looks like it's coming around the river here. And so it's about halfway full of construction materials. That's pretty good. And it did drop some off. I'm not sure how much this is, but it looks like it's going to be pretty much every other pay period, which means this is going to have to be taking a lot of construction materials in order for it to be anywhere close to being profitable. And so what that pretty much means is we're going to have to drastically increase the amount of stone that's coming into this construction materials plant. So let's get in here. First things first, we're going to upgrade these vehicles, and we'll use these trucks as they're much faster. They can still reach their top speed, although it looks like we now have issues somewhere. And it looks like this train is too long here in Pittsburgh. So one thing we can do is extend the station a little bit, since we do have the space to do that. We can extend it out about that far for now. We'll find our cargo platforms, get those placed back in. And let's see if this is good enough now. And it looks like it clears this switch, which is exactly what we needed. It'll unload all of this, or I guess it already has its full load. And it looks like it can actually carry machines back on these flat cars, which is actually super helpful for us. So this train is actually going to head back with a full load. So I'm excited to see how much money this will end up making us in the long run. But anyway, back to over here. Let's see how much stone we're bringing in now. So 289, and this is a 1-to-1 ratio. Let's see. this train is taking 165 into Tacoma, and then adding up everywhere else. So we have 55 here, 116 here, and then another 50 here. I think we'll round that up to a little over 400 is how much stone we'll need coming in here to fully provide for all those cities. So we're gonna have to duplicate quite a few vehicles to get this going at full speed. And so we'll stop right here at 411. I'm sure that number will slowly increase or decrease as things begin to space out. And I think this quarry is able to handle it, so I don't think we have to worry about that at all. And so then taking a look at this train, I think we need to get either a second train running or increase the length of this one. If we take a look at the details here, it is able to get up to its top speed at a somewhat decent rate. Let's just see where it's at. So as long as it's reaching its top speed for a majority of the line, we're okay, and it looks like it's able to get there pretty quick. So we might be able to just throw on another 5-10 flat cars on this, and that'll help out overall with our finances, which it looks like it finally unloaded that roughly half full load for just over 4 million. So I think that does tell me that we probably want to tack on maybe 5 more of these flat cars. And so now with 20 of those, hopefully this won't be too long for our stations, but I guess we'll get a notification if it is. And I think we're okay to pretty much move on from this and let this slowly build up demand. Alright, and so now we're going to, I believe we're at a good enough point to place some airports around the map. We're not going to detail them since airports will take a little bit of time to do that. So we'll save that for another time. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to get an airport in this area. So this can serve Roswell, Lincoln, and then eventually Pittsburgh. And then we're going to get another airport somewhere in this area. I'm actually not too sure where the best spot for an airport is out here. But essentially we want this to serve like Houston and Salt Lake City area. And then the last airport we're going to place, which isn't going to be in this video, but maybe something in the future when we get larger airports, will probably maybe be up here or somewhere out here for Allentown, and maybe even Portland, depending on how demand starts to shake out. But we'll get these airports placed, and we'll have the roads and infrastructure set up for them. We just won't be doing any of the detailing in this video. And so since we're going to be having an airport out in this area, I think that means we're going to have to get a road coming from Roswell out that way. So we're going to delete this industry since we won't need it. And then we'll have to turn this into a bridge that comes across to here, and then comes over, bridges across here, where then we can have our airport right about in this area. And so let's just get started on that by deleting this road. We'll have to find the same road that we used before. And so we can grab this road. We'll have to curve it slightly to line up to this area. Then we can do this, come straight across here. So we can have this road come in like so. We might have to just flatten that out so we can get the road by here. Alright, and then lastly, we'll have to just extend this road straight out a bit farther. So we'll bring it out to somewhere here. And then we just have to bridge across like so. And for this we'll use, let's use this bridge. I think that'll be just fine. And now we can finally think about getting a road placed for this airport. And so just loosely thinking about this, I think we're going to want to come up a little bit. Now unfortunately, well, I guess we can do this now. We'll want to make sure this is a nice flat area, as eventually once we do start detailing this, we'll pretty much want everything to be as flat as possible. And so we can just bring this road straight across like so. And then we can have our passenger airfield. Again, we're not going to do anything too crazy with this, but we can just get it placed. So we'll place this wherever it'll let us. I'm not sure why it's not letting us place it here. So interestingly, for some reason I can't click while holding shift, which allows us to break the snapping. I'm not sure if maybe it's just something I'm missing, but it's fine. We'll worry about that another time. We just mainly want to get this set up. And so now we have this small airfield here that we can use, and we will get a small bus stop out here. I suppose for now this can be pretty simple and basic, so we'll just get that placed here. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. We might, however, just upgrade it to hold a few more people. We'll just do something like that, and that should be good for now. And then pretty much what's going to connect us there is a bus from here to the airport. Now in the future, I think it'd be cool to have a train come in here, and we'll have a short little sort of shuttle route between these two areas, but that's not something we're going to worry about right now, since we're really just trying to get things up and running. And I think we will just use these bus stops, so the one right in front of the train station, as that seems to be a pretty central point. And I'm not sure how much demand we'll be getting, but we'll get 10 buses. And this will go directly from here out to this way. So now those buses should be going around. Let's now think about what we're going to do over in Houston. So thinking in the Houston area for a good spot for an airport, up here would actually be a really good spot. However, the elevation change is just too much to realistically build anything up here and have reasonable transport. Although it could be quite fun and interesting to have an airport up here, but I just don't think it'd be really worth it, at least at the moment. Let me know what you guys think, if maybe this actually would be a better place for it, but I don't want to build it out here, as I want this to end up being a small suburb town of Houston once the city develops a bit further. And then pretty much everything over here is largely unusable just because of how extreme the terrain is. So anything in this area is not really going to work. Which pretty much leaves us with over here or over here. And I'm not fully sold on these either. However, we don't necessarily have a choice, since there's not really any better options anywhere. So I don't think over here would work, since this is sort of in a pocket between mountains. So I think it's going to have to be somewhere over here. I think we'll just get it here. It'll be a little bit elevated above the city. We'll kind of line it up with the edge of these mountains here. And I think that might end up becoming quite nice farther in the future once everything gets built up. And so we have this aligned with our main road in Houston. So now really it's just a matter of placing this where we see fit. We're going to have to do a fair amount of terraforming in order to get this to look even remotely natural, since even up here is fairly hilly. And then we do want to keep in mind that eventually we want to upgrade this to a large airport. So I'm just thinking about how far away is a good enough distance from Houston. And I think right about here might be good. Yeah, I think we'll do this. That seems good enough. We actually didn't end up doing too much terraforming with that placement. However, we will just do some of our own. We'll first of all get rid of a lot of the trees around here. And then we're going to have to pretty much just flatten out a large portion of this area. So now that we've done that, we can smooth out a good area, sort of blend it back in. Alright, so now that most of this is pretty much smoothed out again, we'll just come in, add some of this noise just to break up the smoothness of this whole area. Alright, and so now we have our airport all the way up here. I hope it's not too far away from Houston, and that we at least get a tiny amount of demand once we get this placed, but I think now we can extend our streets. So we'll delete this old dirt road. And then we can have this street be extended. So we'll begin extending this. It will have to go up a somewhat steep slope, but we will end up just smoothing this out over time. Yeah, I'm not really sure how realistic this is. I don't even think this road will end up continuing to be straight all the way out here, but we'll just leave it like that for now. And then somewhere along the way, we will want to come straight off of this road. And this looks pretty decent. I think maybe we'll move over just a bit. And then we can start to have this make its way up to the airport. And so then, again, all we need to do is place down a stop here. And again, this is going to be something that we end up redoing soon. We just want to get the infrastructure placed. So these roads are definitely not how it's going to look later on. We just wanted to create the connection. We'll have to find our road depot, get a couple more buses from Houston going. And for this, we'll try to get 14 buses, as it is a bit farther. And then this will go from our main train station all the way up to the airport. Alright, and then the last thing we need to do to finish up this line is get some of these planes going. And so it looks like we really don't have much going, but we can get this one, as it seems like a pretty decent passenger aircraft. It holds 5 people. I don't think doing this one that's only 1 or this one that's only 3 is even remotely worth it. I think we will start to unlock quite a few more airplanes pretty soon, but we can get this demand kickstarted using this plane with a capacity of 5 and a top speed of 109. And we'll buy 4 of them until we can accurately gauge what the demand is going to be. And that will go from this Houston airport all the way over here to our Roswell airport. So here's our first plane that's going to be leaving out of Houston. Let's just take a ride along with it so we can see what the city looks like from up here, the kind of views that you would be getting as you take off from the Houston airport. And so here we go, reaching our top speed almost on the runway, taking off, and then as we look over to the right, we can see Houston, although our plane is turning away, so unfortunately we won't get that good of a look of what Houston looks like, but we can get a good look of what the rest of the map looks like. I think once we level out here, we can actually look behind us, and there's a good view of Houston. I think this city's starting to look very nice, especially from a distance. It's starting to be, I guess, almost real city size. There's a lot more space we can fill in, but I'm very excited to see how this map continues to grow. And then it looks like we got lucky enough to actually be able to fly right between these mountains here. I didn't think to take that into account, that some of these mountains might be too high and these planes will just sort of clip through them, but thankfully we have a nice shot through here. I'm not sure if the plane is still climbing or not. Hopefully it gets a little bit higher, since this seems to be a little unrealistically low, but we'll pretty much just follow along on this plane all the way to Roswell, and then we can move on from there. Alright, and as we just touched down here in Roswell, everything looked to be okay. Unfortunately, it does look like we fly pretty low across the map, but I think this was actually a very nice flight. It wasn't too short, which is usually my biggest problem with a lot of these airplanes on some of the smaller maps, is the distance just isn't there to really make it worth it. But I think this distance was pretty alright for what it was, and unfortunately we don't have any people waiting, or even any people coming, it looks like. But now that the plane has made its first stop here, hopefully we'll start to see that demand kick in. We'll try to space these planes out just by maybe reversing a few of them. So we'll send a few of them back out to Houston, just so they can get spaced out on the line a bit better. And especially since there's no demand for it right now. And so I think now that we have that all placed down, I think now's a good time to take a look at everything we've done in this video, and then when we come back, we will make sure that the construction materials are getting where they need to and that it is making us money. And then we'll talk about some of the future projects that we have coming up on our list. Alright, and now we are back here flying into Houston, just so you can see what this view looks like. Unfortunately, it's not as good as I thought it was going to be coming in here, but I suppose this is as best as we can ask for. But moving on, let's check in on our construction materials lines and make sure that those are running and operating how we want them to be. And so first up, we actually have this train here that just picked up a full load of construction materials. So that's good to see. That means that things are working. And it looks like it did just drop off its first load of resources. And as long as it's double what the expenses are, I think this train is going to be making us money in the long run. So it looks like it is, as it earned 14 million on presumably a full load. I'm not even sure if it was full when it took that trip. And its running costs are only 6.3 million. So if we multiply that by 2, that gives us 12.6. That means on average, this train is earning us about 1.5 million per financial period. So that's a good enough margin that I'm happy with. Again, that might not even have been the full amount, so we'll have to wait and see what this train brings in. But our construction materials plant is upgrading and starting to push out a lot more resources. It looks like the train going into Tacoma could be upgraded, but we're not going to worry about that right now, as our main focus was the cargo hub. But our truck line going up to the quarry looks to be fine. Nothing's really backing up anywhere. We're not getting any traffic, which is good to see. And then over here at the cargo hub, we should now see we have a few construction materials waiting for Lincoln. Let's see if this train picked up any construction materials. It did not. Maybe the next train up did. Hopefully it didn't. It looks like we just missed it. Must have just dropped them off. But we can see them here at this station. We can see all the construction materials. Those should start to make their way into the city of Pittsburgh. And then lastly, our boats here look to be taking as many resources as they can into Roswell. Unfortunately, I don't think any of them are taking construction materials just yet. Let's just double check that it's checked. So it is. And it's set to unload at Roswell. So presumably it's just a matter of time. I think it's taking machines and food, as those are the top 2 resources waiting at the port right now. So there's nothing we can really do about that. We'll just have to wait for these to continue going back and forth. But eventually that should mean, well, it looks like we did get construction materials. So I assume some of these boats are bringing construction materials. And let's just see if any have made it. and it looks like some have made it into Roswell already. And so let's take a look at our other cities, see if they're getting their demand of construction materials. Pittsburgh is only getting 7, but I assume that this load of resources is the first batch, so this number isn't entirely accurate until it settles in on a more even rate. Unfortunately, here is getting pretty backed up, so we're definitely going to have to do something about this soon. We can't just keep pushing it off. So this will actually probably be a future project that we'll do relatively soon, as it looks like Pittsburgh just desperately needs more buses all around. And then lastly, we have Lincoln here, which does appear to be getting its construction materials. We can see it has actually started growing a lot from that. It could also be from the bus lines, but we definitely need to build out a better road system for Lincoln. This windy main road isn't the best, so we'll think of something. That'll be on our list of things to do fairly soon here. And so now pretty much that's everything that we wanted to check up on. Our construction materials are getting where they need to. All the resources that we're moving around are now getting to where they should be. And so talking about future projects, obviously detailing the airports is going to be one of them. We do have the makings for a little low density residential area out here, or whatever wants to end up being out here. Maybe it's industry. But we can see Roswell has filled out a good portion of what we built out in one of our recent videos. So I think we might be ready to redo Roswell's bus networks. And this will be good, as we'll be able to get a much larger station in here to more specifically help with the train station, the city bus networks, and then our shuttle out to the airport. Our goods factory is doing good, so I think we might be at a point where we can start to send those also back to Pittsburgh, although I think it actually is. We might have set that up already, but sending those resources out to Lincoln. And then Tacoma is very obviously wanting to break out of its current grid. I think we need to expand the city a good bit, especially since this is one of our larger cities on the map. We just really need to expand it, fix some of these roads. I think we'll have it build out this way. We'll bring a road down along here, and then just sort of extend the grid up and out this way towards these train tracks. So this is actually one of the more pressing things that we need to do, so we'll probably do that fairly soon. Another thing that we'll need to take a look at here is our hub on this side of the map, rebalancing some of these lines. As it has been a while, these cities have grown a considerable amount. We are going to have to start to come through and protect some of our builds. As we can see here, we're starting to get some city buildings in some of our cargo areas. Thankfully, we haven't built anything here, but this is going to start to be a problem in some of our other areas where the city has built out to some of the places that we've built. And then sort of our next long-term project is going to be getting a highway network set up on this map. Now, most of our cities are connected by train, but a lot of them aren't connected by forms of private transport, for instance, roads. And so I think we'll want to get a highway system planned out on this map. And we're going to have to be pretty careful with how we do this, since we want to make sure our highways are efficient, they're serving the purpose that they need to, and that we aren't cutting ourselves off in the future in terms of what we can do depending on where our highways are placed. So for instance, navigating Houston is going to be pretty tricky, and we're going to have to be sort of delicate with it, figuring out where we want a highway to come near Houston, and then figuring out how we're going to come either along this side of the water or this side of the water to get to Salt Lake City, and then so on to get over to Portland. And the same applies pretty much everywhere else on the map. Just thinking about ways we can pretty thoughtfully connect these cities up to a highway network or system in a way that doesn't destroy the cities but still serves them as intended. So again, Roswell is going to be tricky to get to. Pittsburgh might be a little hard to fit in since it's sort of stuck between these two mountains here. But there's a whole bunch of things that we can do to do it. We just want to start thinking about these things so that we can generate these ideas early and make sure we aren't sort of shooting ourselves in the foot when we do eventually build it. And so with that, that is going to be all for this video. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.